Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rock and Beards podcast. It is episode 43. My name is HSR.
What up? It's Syd, and it's January 13th, in case any of you were interested.
Yes, it is.
First time we've ever said the date.
It's possible. Not really. We have in a few other ones, but maybe not at the intro. Anyway,
Okay.
So in case you don't care about any of the stuff I'm about to say as I do my normal housekeeping part, in the description below, you will see when we actually start the podcast. On that note, we're going to do something I like to call our favorite comment from last week. Okay, so now you're going to see a comment from Noah Farah appearing on the screen. First of all, this dude comments a lot, and I like his taste in music. He's all over the place.
I like his taste in music, too. You like his taste in music?
I do.
He likes Emperor and Carcass and Mayhem. Sorry, I'm reading another comment right now.
That's another comment. Anyway, anyway.
You're into Mayhem? You like that Norwegian black metal?
I know who they are.
Okay.
But this comment is, as a metal fan, their latest album is solid since their black album but isn't as great as their 80s amazing albums. My personal fave is Ride the Lightning. And that's cool because it's kind of like an entire review summarized into 2 sentences, and it's a dope comment. Anyway, it was just that part where we read the comments, so if you comment on this video, we might read it in the future, and that's an incentive.
I'm glad that he threw Ride the Lightning in there. Like I said, that was the first real Metallica record that I got into as well. I do want to say that, you know, for a lot of people always say it's not as good as their 80s out or whatever, everything since the 80s has sucked. I do want to say that Death Magnetic, I personally think, is a really, really good album. If y'all want to get some modern Metallica that's like on point. Since
this is all a conversation at the end of the day and your opinion matters, and why don't you let us know how you feel about Death Magnetic in the comments below. This isn't even like the same band that we're reviewing today, but let's keep it alive. On that note, what happens when you comment? Well, we're going to talk about the grind to 1,000 subscriber contest that we have going. We are at 703 today, so that number just keeps rising, which means all of you are amazing. To the new people, thank you for joining us. Everyone involved, you're the best. You make my life more interesting. But how this is going to work is if you hit that subscribe button, you like the video, and you leave a comment related to the review, related to the band, you know, just something to show some engagement. You can criticize us. That's totally cool too. You get entered into a raffle. I've been tracking all the comments. What we're going to do then is draw some names based off of the comments left. And first place is going to win $100 of Amazon money of the US dollar equivalent, and you get to request a review from us deciding which of us you want to cover X topic.
And you know what? We're at what, 708, 709?
703.
703, and we're just about halfway through the month, so chances are good that we're gonna hit that grand maybe mid-February, somewhere there.
You know, so you'll actually get to request that thing.
Yeah. If you want to get your request in, you want to get your comment in, you want to get your name in that draw, do it, man. Now's the time.
Yeah, and then I am putting together a request list, which I'll be publishing as soon as it's done, but it's a freaking time-consuming activity, so bear with me. So you'll see how not full of shit we are about this.
Not full of shit.
So second place is going to get $50, plus they get to request that review, and third place is going to be $25. So we're going to get those 3 reviews done in the order as quick as possible on top of the regular shows, so just to show some love. But it gets better because for every single video that you have commented on, that you liked on, you get additional entries on this list. I'm scrubbing it all, and then we're going to use some random number generator and pull some fucking names. As simple as that. So guys like Lindell, who have commented on nearly everything since forever,
he's got a good chance.
He's got more chances than, say, the guy who's come in that one time. Now, that's just the rules. That's how we're putting it out there. On that note, thank you all for being with us. Let us get into it. Syd, why don't you tell us this week what album we are reviewing?
So this week we decided to hit up some old school stoner metal titans. Corrosion of Conformity coming back this year with No Cross, No Crown. For those of you OG fans, you will know that this is the first album since 2005 to feature original frontman Pepper Keenan on vocals and lead guitar. So it's very cool. It's very much a return to form to that classic COC sound. Not that they ever really diverged from it, but this one is that classic 4-piece sound. So it's a cool record. Holden, when did you first get into COC?
So I looked at what albums came out yesterday on Friday, and I saw that this was an album that had a rock metal feel to it, and it came out recently, and that was my first discovery of this band. I have since looked at their Wikipedia page and listened to this one album. And I'm saying that now because often when we cover groups like this, we get criticized for our ignorance, and I just want to say I'm ignorant now, and that this was my first exposure to them, and I'm trying to be as open-minded and enthusiastic as I know how to be about metal as I slowly learn to appreciate something different than the mass amounts of music I normally listen to. On that note, I did enjoy this experience, just as a preface, so I'm not that worried, but I don't know any of their older work, their history, only that they've been around for a fucking long time. And that's pretty cool to see that they can drop new music. And one thing I've noticed about these bands that have been around for a long time and have actually dropped new music in 2017 or 18, we'll say, is that they deliver a certain degree of technical proficiency and creativity in terms of the subtleties of their songwriting that really just shows their expertise. So understanding their tenure and their length, even without hearing their older music, put me in a place where I was kind of excited to actually listen to this without much knowledge of the band.
Yeah, I've been a casual listener of COC since high school. Just because I really liked Metallica in high school, and Hetfield's shown up a couple of times on their records. I have never really delved into like their really early like hardcore punk stuff, like any of that faster stuff. I've heard it a little bit, but I really like their current sound, if you will, the sound since they've really come into themselves. It's very Sabbathy, very doomy, very very bluesy. I really dig it. Pepper's got a lot of emotion when he's delivering his vocals, so I was also excited for this record. I also got to interview the band a couple months before this came out, so I had double excitement.
That's linked below. You can check that out.
So yeah, what do you think of that album cover?
It is distinct enough to like look old retro-y metal-y, and like it looks like it's fitting a motif of sorts, but honestly it doesn't do a lot for me. It's got a skull and a girl, and it looks kind of gothic and horror-y, and it's just, I could see why it would appeal to a lot of people, but it doesn't do very much for me. I'm more interested in the name of the album personally, but how do you feel about the cover?
Well, I like it in conjunction with the name, because it's kind of like the title "No Cross, No Crown," right? And they've got a little bit of duality playing throughout this record, and she's kind of holding up the skull in kind of like a prayer type motion, kind of the way that in The Lion King, like the monkey holds up Simba at the beginning.
Okay.
And I dig the way that it's like it's not a cross, it's not a religious symbol, and the skull has no crown. Like this is an everyman that she's holding up in kind of a worship position. So you get that duality in there a little bit. I dig that. I
appreciate that. Like it does look deliberate, and well thought out. And now that you say that, having heard the album, it actually is very fitting for the context of it, but still it looks a bit like a painting, and it just doesn't appeal to me. And as a thumbnail, it looks like a blur. Yeah. And as everyone here might know, I care a lot about how your album cover looks as a thumbnail, because that's how I appreciate shit. Is it well designed per se? So this is artistically created, but I'm not a huge fan of the design choice.
I mean, it's very much like it's a throwback to that like 70s doom metal look, right? Like Sabbath were releasing these kind of oil painting looking covers, and that's very much where their influence comes from. And
so I appreciate all of that.
I'm throwing that out there.
No,
your opinion is valid, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate you validating the album cover so that the fans don't think we're both complete morons. I'll take that one on this. But I do love the No Cross, No Crown. It's got such powerful imagery associated with simply 4 words, right? Like, fuck religion, fuck the government, in 4 words. Done so tastefully, actually. I dig it. It has a lot of interesting ideas even before you hear the first track. And to say so much with so little, truly impressive.
So shall we dig into Novus Deus?
Yeah.
Novus Deus.
That means new God, yo. Yeah. So here we have 90 seconds. ish.
89 seconds.
Whatever.
Sir.
It starts off with, and he's like exhaling. And then there's a heartbeat. And that heartbeat kind of serves as the drum pattern of this track for the most part. And then guitars kick in. And it sounds ominous. And epic all at the same time. I also felt like shit was about to go down. And it, as an album intro, does set a degree of context and tone. Like, this is going to be some epic shit. Like, this is going to be some serious shit. Like, get ready for it. And that heartbeat kind of connects you instantly to almost this human feel. Like, you know, like you're the everyman, as Syd pointed out. Just in the littleness there. Otherwise, it was outside of the context of this album, kind of not that interesting.
Right.
So, like, it serves its role really well, but it was an interesting first impression. I felt it was okay. I gave this, honestly, a 3.5 on 5. I felt it was well composed, but really, it only serves the role of being an intro to this album and to the next song, which it flows right into, which is cool. But had it just been attached and this had all been longer, it would have been a better experience, I think, for me. On the other hand, I get how and why they did this choice, and I'm not trying to be a dick. It was enjoyable, but not incredible.
I mean, I had the opposite complaint, if you'll remember when we did the Evanescence album a few weeks ago, and they had that really long intro that was like attached to the intro track, and I said I felt like they should have separated it and had that in intro. Because in this case, like, you get the sense right away that this is an album that is meant to be listened to from front to back, right?
That's fair.
It's not. These aren't just. This isn't a separate collection of songs. Like, this is a piece of art that works as one entity and is meant to be digested in one sitting. So in that sense, I really like it. And I mean, I'm gonna drop a bunch of metal bands' names throughout this review because there's a lot of bands that a lot of this record reminded me of. This particular intro reminded me a lot of something that like Slayer would do.
Okay.
Like not necessarily as the intro to an album, but like as the intro to a song like Seasons in the Abyss or like Cult, something like that, where they just have this really slow, ominous build up, and you know something heavy is really coming. And minus the strings, which you ever hear strings on a Slayer record, you know the end of the world is coming. But like, other than that, it's just this like really ballsy, full of gain, full of distortion, really, really great build, and the heartbeat really adds to that. And I really liked a lot of the instrumentals on this record because they weren't very long, but they really served to serve up what was coming next. So I gave this track a 4 on 5 based on that.
So let's talk about the Luddite.
The Luddite.
So I think I'm going to answer the question that those who don't know already and didn't Google like I did. The
Google
Luddites were a group of English textile workers and weavers in the 19th century who destroyed weaving machinery as a form of protest. The group was protesting the use of machinery in a fraudulent and deceitful manner to get around standard labor practices. Motherfucker. They are protesters fighting technology and abuse of it, in a sense, back in the day.
Wisdom bomb.
So that explains a lot of like the context of the song. Now, this is one of those albums where as much as there are lyrics and the lyrics are actually cohesive and interesting, I had a lot of trouble hearing the lyrics because I was so caught up in the music. So this is not going to be my most lyrical review, as normally I go really hard on that shit. But just to give you an idea of like some lyrics, I did write down: the attrition machine builds a new guillotine, in the place of his birth breeds a new Nazarene. And I felt like, alright, that's pretty standard-ish, right? Like from what I've seen in metal so far, it felt like exactly like it fits. But overall, this song kind of addresses technology and the destructions and evils of the abuse of it, right? And you can tell this, and really I feel like it drives it home at the end when he goes, technology burns when the Luddite returns. So I feel like this is kind of almost like a call for our protagonist of said story to come back and challenge the status quo of maybe a projection into a dystopian future where technology is being completely controlling us and shit. And so I'm already impressed because I've gotten all of this, and they made me Google the Luddite, and I learned what that was. So I was feeling pretty cool about that from a lyrical point of view, but really the music is the interesting part of this. They have a firm grasp of how to tell a story through the instrumentation, which of course Syd's going to break down with more detail than I ever could. But the song really captures the essence of like something powerful, and it really does give you like scenery and stuff starts playing in your head, and it is one of those experiences where it doesn't really matter what they're saying because you get the feeling of what the song's about simply from the music, which I find pretty awesome, honestly. I gave this track a 4 on 5. I didn't feel like it was the most standout, impressive, awesome track on the album. But on the other hand, it really was a great, fun, head boppy, like you can get into it experience. So it's totally something that I can see myself revisiting, albeit not my go-to.
What's interesting about this song is that, and you can read it in the interview, this is the last song that they wrote for the record. They were like in the studio, like finishing up everything else, and they just kind of jammed it out, Mike and Pepper, and so they kind of fell in love with it like in the studio last minute, and they decided to start the album with it. And you know, as a musician, like as an artist, you get that sense when you really finish a song for the first time, you hear it back, there's that like kind of romance you have with it, that kind of like honeymoon. And I'd like to hear their opinions on it. Now, I felt the song was awesome, but maybe a little too long. And it's really the only song on this record that I felt that way about.
Okay.
But I did want to say, just in terms, I really like their lyrics in general because I like the way that they use words that complement exactly what's happening in the music. Like, I love the word Nazarene. I love that word. It's just so much cooler than Jesus. Like, if he was just called the Nazarene, I feel like more people would be Christians.
Well, it's also like a loose way to allude to it so that you're not being like mad obvious. So I thought it was creative. Like, look, if you're going to write about a subject like religion is whatever, be creative about it. Like do something to make it interesting. And with that kind of wordplay and abstract approach, it was a smart and tactful way to communicate your idea.
Yeah, so. Exactly. I mean, I'm not being facetious or sarcastic. I really do love that word. There's a couple other spots on this record where I just really appreciate his choice of lyric. And we'll get to that a little later. But yeah, I mean, it's full of riffs. It's fucking great. There's lots of great transitions, a lot of energy. It's a good way to open the album. I gave it a 4.5 just because, again, I felt like it could have been just a little bit shorter. But that's
totally a legitimate point of view. But dude, you just cast the first stone, and Pepper and friends are gonna come at you.
Shit.
Like, I was just commenting on, if you're gonna comment on religion and shit, do it in a creative way. So I had to quote this shit. Back in time before they crossed the line and the truth was made of gold, cross the paths and was based on the past, or so the story goes. Strike fear and the end draws near, and the peasants wore a blindfold. Stack 'em up, burn 'em down, and a peace remains unknown. And that is one of the most crafty and creative ways I have ever heard anyone describe how religion was supposed to be a good idea and turned to pure shit that I've ever fucking heard. And I'm like, it doesn't matter if I agree with them or not. That's not really the point. The point is that they took the time to really craft this story to express why they feel the way they feel. And this album keeps this going. It is definitely this clear story as it goes on, and the music reflects this certain emotional energy as it continues. So I'm already like fucking even more impressed than I was. So as my first exposure to this band, I'm like, damn, this is like a good example of what metal has to offer. And they're old, which is cool because it seems old guys are really good at metal these days, is all I'm trying to say. Old rappers are killing it. Old metal guys are killing it. And it's so encouraging to see that you can drop an album at like, I don't know, 50s or whatever you are, and like it can still pop.
How about that, eh? The guys have been doing it for fucking decades, have gotten really fucking good at it.
I know, but like on the other hand, sometimes people kind of get too old and lose the art or the passion or the
Fair
something
enough.
along the way.
Fair enough.
So these are guys who clearly are still about that shit.
Yeah.
Even if they took their break or whatever, they're about that shit and they never lost it. And that is inspirational to somebody like me who wants to know that passion can exist in 20 years, you know? Anyway, I love that about it. Verse 2 is interesting on this track because God is like, what the fuck is man doing? Creating a bunch of ignorant shit in my name. It's kind of commenting almost on how everyone's almost missed the point of the religion in the first place and now just uses it to do shit. I mean, it's stupidly clear how that's a criticism of today. And it's just, in general, it goes on. The third verse wasn't as clear to me what it was about, but it kind of kept the motif going. And I'm still impressed by their song consistency, how the music supports the whole fucking energy of the track. This is far better to me. I really enjoyed this one way more. I give this a 4.5 on 5. It is definitely, I believe it's a single, and it's totally worthy of being a single. This would make me want to check out the album, and so it's a good single, not one of those, the single's like just the worst song on the album, you know, like sometimes that happens. So I'm done. Like I'm done with this now.
I don't think this one is a single. I know the Luddite was a single, the one we heard before.
Oh, it's not?
I don't think this one is. The Luddite is one, and Wolf Named Crow is one. I don't know if this one has made the single.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I just assumed it was the single because on Spotify, this has gotten the most plays off the album, and that was my assumption. So if I'm wrong, I'm totally sorry, but evidently, based on Spotify's democracy, this is the most popular song on the album.
I think one of the reasons, maybe, I'm going to speculate, is that this is really like the quickest, fastest, punkiest song on the record, and I know a lot of people, you know, as they will for a lot of bands, are kind of hoping for a return to that like really, really old school sound. Like Corrosion of Conformity used to be a hardcore punk band, right? And then they kind of evolved into like this more bluesy, riff-based, slower metal band that they are today. So this is really the closest that you're gonna get in 2018 to Corrosion of Conformity sounding like they did when they first started being a band. Which is cool. I mean, I fucking dug this song, man. This is like Lamb of God meets Motorhead, like two fucking generations of speed metal coming together. I'm curious to hear what you would think of a Lamb of God song, based on your opinion on this one, because there's a lot of callbacks to that kind of quick groove based metal in here, and even the vocals are very similar to something that Randy Blythe would do.
If you guys want to see us do a Lamb of God review, tell us what album.
Oh my God, please.
And yeah, we'll just request some shit and put in that list together.
Hashtag as the palace is burned. But yeah, I mean, I love the title. I really like the time that they put into the titles on this record. They work really well. Cast the First Stone, and you get this kind of like this sense of urgency and this sense of like of being the first strike, all the way through with the riffs. Yeah, man, fucking headbang to this for days. I give it a 5 on 5.
So, but what about you? Because as much as it's what we talk about how we feel, we neglect to ask you enough how you guys feel about these tracks, and let us know in the comments as you go. Fuck it, leave 4 comments. Give us your review as you go, too. We care, because honestly, those comments educate us in how to see future albums and get better, so everybody wins. What'd you give this one?
I gave it a 5.
Awesome. No cross? Oh, okay.
No cross.
Yeah, this was the next instrumental on the album, and when you look at the track list, you realize there's a few of these, and they serve this purpose of changing the atmosphere and the tone, kind of breaking up the themes a little bit of what's happening. From a movie point of view, it's like this is like that montage scene as like, you know, time passes or whatever, and it gives you that sense. I feel like this one was a serious step up from the previous one in terms of like being an interesting piece of something to listen to, and maybe it was just they were kind of holding off on the intro track, but this one really got me. I felt like you could just vibe to it, and as a result, I give it a 4. I thought it was better, but my commentary for these are all going to be very similar.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I really like this one too. I liked how it was very simmering, like a lot more minimal. I could see how you might have liked it more than the intro. I don't know that it would have worked as an intro to the album as a whole.
I agree with that statement, because it serves as being an intro to the next song in the same way that the other one did.
Right. But I also feel like it brings this like lull point in the album like it works better between songs than it does without something before it, I think.
I'm completely like agreeing with you. I think that it's well placed on this album. I'm not trying to like say that this should be the intro. I'm just saying because it was the last instrumental track and there are a few more to come. I feel like this one was just more interesting to listen to as a standalone piece of music. Right?
Fair enough. And I also gave this one a higher grade than I gave that first one. I also, because I like again the way they're playing around with the title concept. Right, this one is just no cross. And then later on the album, they're gonna expand on that with the actual title track, No Cross, No Crown. So it's cool conceptually how they do that, man. I gave this a 4.5 on 5.
And it, like I said, it does flow completely into Wolf Named Crow.
Yeah.
This track had a nice head boppy rhythm. I couldn't make out what all the lyrics were, and for some reason they weren't available online, so I guess older metalheads don't feel the need to post the lyrics the way young rap fans do. And I get the sense, though, that this song is about folk kind of wishing and waiting and, like, shit kind of happens, and it kind of feels like it's tied to the idea of people turning to God aimlessly. And that was the overall impression that I got. But then Syd told me this freaking anecdote after, and I wanted you to expand on it now a little bit.
I mean, this is another song that Mike spoke about a little bit when I interviewed him, and it was in kind of their press release, so I knew to ask about it. It's basically just so a little bit of background again on the band. Like they started off, I'll say it again, as like a hardcore punk band. They had a lot of political. They had a political agenda, right? And then as they kind of grew and as they kind of matured, they kind of realized like if you're putting too much topical subject matter onto a song, then that song, there's no way it's going to be timeless, right? Like it's going to stay in that time period and it's going to become a fossil. It's not going to age well. But if you don't focus on trying to make your song too much about one specific thing, trying to make one specific point, this is just that, you can agree, you can disagree. But if you really focus on the art of the lyrics, on the art of fitting the words to the music and making sure that it creates something that transcends any sort of real literal meaning, the songs tend to last like a little bit longer, and then you can kind of play around with your personal feelings. You can play around with this and that, and that's kind of their philosophy going forward. Like the lyrics really need to service the music more than they kind of service a real point. So to sum that up, this song, and it's one of the longest songs on the record, and it's a fucking tangent, is really just about he has a wolf and it's a half wolf and his name is Crow, and some kid kind of he was walking his dog and some kid kind of went, "Oh man, you have a wolf named Crow, that's so cool." And he was like, "God damn, that's a really cool title for a song." So he kind of just took that and went on this kind of like spacey tangent and kind of like applied his own meaning to it after, but like the words kind of came first.
Right. But no, I think it fits the story of the album. It's when you really start to get the feeling that there is this clear concept of shit happening. So it went from kind of explaining how God became the thing that he is in people's lives to almost the reality of how humanity has interpreted that information and knowledge. And it does do exactly what you said. It expresses it in an abstract, timeless way where it's not even like offensive. Like it's done in a way where it might go over the heads of a lot of people who aren't specifically looking for it. So really, these guys are applying the code of the OG to code their messages in a way that the narcs won't figure it out.
But it's kind of also like there is definitely a very clear narrative that goes throughout this record, but it's not really like a judging.
Nope.
And those are always the best records, right? The best musicians, the best philosophers, the best artists are kind of the ones that just take what's happening, what they see around them, and just matter of fact, not really matter of factually because it's very abstract, but just kind of like lay it back to you and say, what do you think about this?
Well, I feel like there's a little bit of condemnation towards certain things. Like this is clearly an anti-God,
it's an angry record.
But it's definitely an anti-religion album. Maybe not God per se, but they're against the institution of religion and shit like that. They're just putting their perspective though, because the way they're framing it, and to support what you just said, is see, look at the consequence of what's happened to your good idea.
Right.
And
Exactly.
It's a really clever twist to really get away with dropping what otherwise might be grouped as clear God bashing, as a lot of other people do, and I find that to be an ignorant way to approach the subject matter.
It's a little bit immature because sometimes you just got to step back and see how even if you know they're wrong, even, or think they're wrong or whatever, you got to step back and see how other people see things, right?
And I feel like they have definitely done that here. They've done their due diligence. This track was really fun, actually, but I gave it a 4. I didn't like it's really fun, but a few of them really encapsulated me. The rest of the album, for the most part, was just a really good time, as opposed to being like the most amazing thing I've heard. Not to diminish it at all, because a 4 is still a good grade. It's still like awesome, but I know that to some people this might be like the greatest album ever, and etc., etc. But for me, this is just a really good time, and I would definitely come back to this project so far.
Yeah, I mean, I plussed like more than half of the songs on this record. I really fucking enjoyed this album. This one reminded me of like early Soundgarden. So if you're into that like more heavy fucking Soundgardens like from the late 80s, this one is definitely up there, and that kind of riffing and that kind of transitioning. It's really cool. Fucking tasty solo section right in the middle, and there's all kinds of tasty jams on this record. Like if you're into that really instrumental, guitar driven blues soloing, like there's a lot of that here. And it's really cool.
It's quite delightful.
It is very delightful. I also really do like. I really appreciate Pepper's vocals. I know I've said it already, but on this song in particular, like this is one of those songs, and a lot of songs on this record are like this. You kind of have to listen to them more than once to let different things sink in. Like there's always something new you're going to hear every time you listen to one of these songs, and this one in particular is like that. So I gave this one a 4.5 on 5.
Dope.
Yeah.
All right, little man. Your opinion was lovely.
$15, little man.
Get out of my way, say I think I'll change my way.
Put that shit in my hand.
Okay, relax yourself. So for this track, I realized something along the way. I'm having a bit of trouble with the lyrics because I'm not that used to this music in terms of really deciphering it. Like, the first time I heard what y'all call mumble rap, it sounded like mumble to me, but now it's super clear because my brain understands how to filter the sounds in a specific way. And so the first time I heard this track, I could not understand a fucking word he was saying in the way it was just put together. The music blew my mind. It was super fucking amazing music. It was really one of the best instrumentations on the album for me. But the lyrics were, like, it sounded like they were clear, but I couldn't understand them. The more I listened to it, the clearer it did get. And then I realized, man, I have to, like, really listen to these songs a few more times if I want to get the lyrics to pop out at me, which was an interesting discovery, just sharing it with y'all. But anyway, he seems to want to, like, change how he lives. And as he does that, our protagonist person, people kind of, like, turn on him and, like, no one's there to save him, and then he kind of like runs away, and someone comments on why he's sad if he's a preacher, and the chorus also kind of makes this all sound like an addiction, and that's what I got from my like lyrical analysis portion of the song. Be that as it may, the music is truly fucking phenomenal. Like, I don't know how to describe it per se, but it was higher energy, more fun, more life. I would totally go back to this track. Like, this is one of those ones where if you're having like a bleaker day or you're bored or something like that, and you just want to like and like jump around your apartment for a minute, dope ass track. And I highly recommend this with a 4.5 on 5.
I mean, I'm just going to preface this right away. I gave a lot of 5s on this record. a lot more than I usually do. Because this is like, what this record to me was like, if someone asked you what is heavy metal, like what is heavy metal, what does it sound like, you could just plop this record down in front of them and be like, here you fucking go, this is an education in metal in the last 50 years. Like, it's got everything. And even just in terms of the vocals, like he's just like that perfect mix of like Ozzy, Rob Halford, James Hetfield, fucking Phil Anselmo, all like packed into this fucking energetic and bluesy and like emotional package. And it's the same thing with the riffs, man. You've got all these like old school killer like doom riffs, blues riffs, a bunch of thrash riffs, like a bunch of dual guitar playing, and just some really fucking tasty solos. And again, this song just encapsulates all of that. Just this opening jam that's just fucking killer. You can't help but enjoy it. Like if someone were to throw this song on and they weren't smiling, I'd question their happiness. I mean, like, there's something going on in your head that's making you unhappy if you can't enjoy this song.
Which is ironic in light of the lyrical tone of the song.
Yeah, and I mean, that's it, man. This is what metal's supposed to be. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be engaging, and it's supposed to be heavy, and it's supposed to be angry. But it's not supposed to make you feel angry. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be cathartic, and that's really what you feel in this record. So yeah, I gave this one another 5 on 5. Fucking loved it.
Awesome. And don't forget to let us know if you enjoyed it the way we did, because we seem to have a consensus that this one is dope. And then also, don't forget to let us know how you feel about Matre's Diem. I have one comment on this little interlude. This is fucking lovely. I gave this a 5 on 5. I found it pleasing, enjoyable, a little piece of serenity and oasis in the midst of this heavy album. Very nice.
Hang on, just gotta warm up. You know, just gotta.
I don't really know what you're doing.
Me, mama. Okay, ready?
Yes.
Chamber music is cool.
What is that?
4 on 5.
I don't know what that means.
It's just the kind of music that this is.
Okay. Awesome. So we're going to move on to the next track. So Forgive Me, Please. Basically, this track was even more fun and energetic and interesting than I'd say anything I've heard so far on the album. I was almost like, wait, it gets better? Like, honestly, we're at track 8. Track 8 is a little deep. That's usually when, you know, a couple of lagger songs come around. It gets a little lazy. Not these guys. These guys keep it fucking alive. I got so into the music that every time I tried to listen to the lyrics, I couldn't focus on them because of how much the groove enthralled me. Like, I really enjoyed this track a lot. I got the Forgive Me part, and I'm assuming that there was some degree of tying that into it, into, like, you could hear bits and pieces of words super clear. So my only real criticism is I didn't really find that the vocals were mixed in a way to help me understand what the fuck the song's about. And since I have cared about the message of this album, that was the only and that's a little point, right? Like, that's not a big thing, because otherwise you put this shit on and it takes you up to this super happy, dope, awesome experience of a place, of a great vibe. You're headbanging, everything's proper. And as far as that, how the metalheads describe that metal experience goes, if you went to go see this live, it would be fucking amazing. For that reason, 4.5 on 5.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. This is it's a great old school metal track. It really, like, as I was listening to it, I was just like, Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. That kind of like like dual guitar. Like, there's not really the harmonies that Maiden would have done right at the beginning. That happens a little later on in the track, but very much, very again, very Judas Priest in that sense. And in the riffing in general, all the way through the album, or all the way through the song, it didn't like super stand out for me the way some of the other tracks on the record did. Like, I enjoyed it a lot. It's a good song. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. I gave it a 4 on 5.
All right, let's go on then to Nothing Left to Say, which might be what some of you hope we have going on, but that's not the case. We got a lot more to say. This song was even fucking better. I couldn't believe it. This song has this hopelessness to it, this pure defeatedness. Like, this dude has tried so hard over the course of trying to figure out shit in his life, and ultimately the music conveys that tone. There's this super calm melodic part in the middle. The vocals aren't really that important because it's still carrying along. Like, you can picture the guy walking in a desert with tumbleweeds and bad things are happening to him, and, you know, whatever you visualized is there. And I really like that effect that it had. There's this solemn sense of consequence to it, and considering some of the subject matter of challenging, let's say, the ideas of religion and God, and then how people treat him after he's done it a little bit and things like that, it kind of just gets the feeling like this person is like out of things to say, and he's tried so hard and he just feels like there's no point. He's empty, and I dig it. I gave this a 5. I think it really accomplishes its goal of communicating the idea. It really fits the album in a way where I didn't think it was possible, but it further revitalizes it in a sense of it makes me excited to hear what the rest of the album has to offer. So yeah, it's a 5.
Yeah, man. I also gave this one a 5. This is I mean, this is the kind of song that can bring someone to tears. Like, it's just a beautiful song. There's a shit ton of emotion all the way through, particularly, again, in the vocal delivery. But, like, there's this little 20 seconds of clean guitar soloing that has more soul in it than a lot of modern metal guitarists manage in, like, a lifetime of djenting. And it's just so beautiful to hear, man. Like, I fucking love this song. Like, it's up there with, like, Cemetery Gates, as like great hard rock ballads. I don't know if I had. Yeah, that's pretty much it, man.
All right.
Fucking, you should listen to this song, Sacred Isolation. Next.
So this is the last of our interludes, which I found a little bizarre because so far it's been like little interlude thing, couple songs, interlude, and then there's 5 tracks after this. So you're like, okay, let's say 4 tracks in the last one. After this, it's just odd to me why they wouldn't throw in one more little interlude thing. Is all I'm trying to say. But
maybe there wasn't enough space on the actual tape.
Maybe
like they'd have had to have made it a double album if they threw one more interlude.
Which is fine, and I'm not trying to be like hyperly critical about it. It was just something I noticed, and I wanted to share with y'all. I again thought this one was really pretty, and considering the desolate nature of what we just heard, it's almost like in a literal sense this revitalizes with some hope into our protagonist or something, like he's had some time to himself, escaped the maelstrom of reality, and the rest of the story is about to unfold and shit, so it really does build you up for that. I give it a 4.5 on 5. I don't like it quite as much as the last one, but it's still pretty fucking stellar.
This one felt like I was flying through space. I gave it a 4 on 5.
All right, so let's talk about this old disaster. Yeah, next track. All right, this was another one I had a lot of trouble understanding what he was saying on, but I had this sense of I've heard this before, but not in a bad way. In a comfortable reminding me of good, warm, fuzzy, happy metal music. I'm like, they were kind of like how Syd's been throwing all these bands together and describing how it's almost like they're paying homage to a lot of different styles of metal all at the same time. This one I noticed, but what I also noticed was how excellently composed this track was, how the music didn't feel like recycled nonsense. It just felt like a fresh, fun, familiar feeling. Like I couldn't place what song it is. But it felt like it was supposed to be like this, and it did it really well. But I have no fucking idea what the song is about in any way, shape, or form. However, if you felt the album so far, if you're feeling it, like it continues on, it totally feels like it fits on this project. Even though there's so many varying styles that have come across the way, it's not like anything feels out of place or like it doesn't really belong. It's just showcasing talent in a distinct and interesting way. I gave this one a 4 on 5. It didn't do as much for me, partially because I do care about what the songs are about. So when I have trouble understanding the lyrics, and it makes it a little less enjoyable for me.
I mean, this one, like, it's a fine song. It was the only one, and after this point, like, the album, spoiler alert, gets fucking incredible. But this was the only one that I really felt sounded a little bit like COC by Numbers.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't really a standout song. It didn't really, against many of the others, have its own, like, kind of identity. And again, I like the song. It's a good song. Don't get me wrong. It's just, I think it's my least favorite one on this record.
That's fair.
Yeah. So that's it. I gave it a 3.8 on, because even like the jam in the middle, the little solo section, just wasn't as on point as a lot of the other jams. And again, there are a lot of other jams, so take that as you will. Like, but I gave it a 3.8 on 5.
All right, let's move on to E.L.M. So this track, like, takes the energy and it, like, spikes it up a notch, right? Like, it's truly, like, it's pumping, but at the same time, I still had a lot of trouble understanding what the song was about. Now, this made me wonder if it's because I didn't listen to it enough times. I did hear every track on this album 3 times, plus the ones with music videos one more time, but I don't know. Like, I find it a little bit harder when I listen to metal to pick apart what he's saying, because often the guitars are there, the drums, everything's just happening, and it's such a busy song that it makes it more challenging to soak in the lyrics when I come in. So I feel like ignorant about it. But I did hear snippets of words like everlasting and monolith and stuff that was kind of like pushing towards the idea of something is here to stay and it's not going away, right? And I feel like that is kind of conveyed through the song, and the music kind of has this almost triumphant, eternal feel to it.
Yeah.
So that is there, but I really I've had a lot of trouble understanding what this track was about, and I was wondering if any of you out there do know what each of these songs are about, and if we missed the point, feel free to provide a summary in the comments and educate both us and anyone else coming to this video who may have also not seen the brilliance of the specific song by songs, etc.
I also want to ask, I was going to ask you, but I literally just asked you off camera. And I want to ask you guys too, if anyone knows what the E.L.M stands for, if anyone caught that. I know he says it in the song, like he says and I know it's eternal something mind. I think it's eternal loathsome mind. You said you thought it might be.
I heard everlasting monolith or something like that, but like that's it. It's just, it was hard to.
But yeah, and
Yeah.
I was really gonna say. So if you guys, if you know what that stands for some reason, or you heard the lyrics, because there's not a lot of lyrics available readily online for this record yet. To the day after it came out. But I really like that monolithic madness, like when he comes in with that, and the riff is just so fucking huge. Like, this is another example of where he took the perfect, ridiculous concept, monolithic madness. Like, what is that? But he just applied it right where it needed to happen to make it feel monolithic, and to make it
madness of monolithic proportion.
Thank you.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Wisdom bomb.
Okay, anyway, sorry.
But yeah, no, and this song just immediately had a lot more energy than the last one. Those fucking twin guitars, man, they get me every time. I gave this one a 4.5 on 5.
I landed on a 4 with this one. As much as it had more energy than the last track, I ultimately felt it was about the same level of quality, and I had the same level of interest in the song. There were different types of fun, good songs to put on, and it does further the stereotype that this band is showcasing their ability to appreciate multiple kinds of metal from multiple kinds of sources while tying it into a single project. On that note, there is the title track that exists on this album, No Cross, No Crown. What a fucking curveball. Like, you're kind of expecting, I guess, a certain sound at this point on the album, and they just said fuck you and threw this completely creepy, evil, daunting,
Fucking eerie,
like this creepy, satanic almost vocals. And I don't like to use that term, but honestly that's the word that best describes almost the tone of how it is.
I also wrote satanic.
You kind of get the feeling that somebody's failed and they've bad things are happening. The messenger's been killed in the second verse, if I'm not mistaken. But really where this song blows your fucking mind is at the end when those guitars kick in, and it's like it elevates from awesome to fucking phenomenal. And I got sucked in. I listened to that little guitar part at the end a couple times in a row. I really, really fucking think this is a truly interesting kind of almost culmination of this story we've been coming through, and this person's trying to figure it out, I guess, and at the end it's almost like you feel like standing for something and shedding off the crown, I guess the government, the authority, shedding off the religious things that you've been sucked into. Really just ends with you getting fucked is kind of the feeling you get, or this feeling of, at least. And I ended up with a 4.5 on 5 on this track. I think there's a lot of value to it in terms of interest, and considering how left field it came at me but how well it fits, it furthers my idea that these guys are truly brilliant, at least understanding how to put together a proper album.
Yeah, and I mean, again, I've been praising their ability to title songs all the way through this thing, but just I love it when a band makes the title tracks the thing that you're least expecting. When this track comes in, if you don't. If you're not looking at the track length, you expect it to turn into something huge, something heavy, but it just keeps this simmering, eerie, dark tone, almost like the theme for a bad guy in a western, like an old western. You see him kind of slowly sauntering down those like tumbleweeds, and he's got his guns ready to and then like Satan's in the background because of the fucking chanting. But yeah, no, this is a great track. As you said, the instrumental part at the end, that little clean solo section is also fucking beautiful. I gave this one a 5 on 5.
All right. So I'd say there's one more real song for this album, and we're gonna call it "A Quest to Believe, A Call to the Void." And by we, I mean they called it that. This is definitely the second longest song on the album, and you don't even notice. You just don't. It is such a treat. It is definitely the best song on the album for me, hands down. There's this sense of, sorry, I have no idea what the song's about again, but you get this like sense of desolation, like he's looking for his faith still, blah blah blah. But like I'm taking that from like the song title, but like really you don't get this like sense of true satisfaction here. You get this sense like after all of this, there's just more struggle and frustration to come.
Yeah,
which is an interesting commentary we can say on how life actually is right now. So it is cool to kind of get a glimpse into how they feel about things, which is at the end point. Obviously, they're not feeling like we're in the most optimistic, happy, life is good situation where we've seen many other albums covering these types of subjects. They always seem to end on such a high note, and I kind of like the fact that this seems to end on such a low note in spite of it all, you know?
Yeah. Again, in terms of the way they use words, and in terms of the way they really articulate with few words but powerful words, and playing on that duality theme that they've kind of had going throughout the record. I love a quest to believe, a call to the void. Like what is belief, right? Belief is the ultimate validation that there is a higher power, that there is something that you found that really validates your existence. So it's like the quest to find the ultimate something, but the call towards the void, which is just like the ultimate empty, the ultimate nothing. And you really get that sense of being pulled either way and just not finding any satisfaction either which way. So I love that. It really plays with the no cross, no crown thing. It's fucking beautiful on its own.
And the music also conveys that same exact energy and emotion. It's not just limited to the title. It's definitely how the song feels.
Yeah, and in terms of the way, again, you want to describe to someone what heavy metal is, like this song, not without ripping off Black Sabbath, really mimics the way that they structured some of their bigger songs. So it's got this like big heavy riff, and there's the verse and the chorus, and then there's just like this quicker jam that kind of comes in the middle, and then it brings it all back around. Very reminiscent of a lot of what Black Sabbath did, and are still doing songs like God Is Dead. So very cool that way. Really, really awesome outro. Some really fucking cold twin guitar going on in that middle section there. Again, record just keeps getting better and better. This is another 5 on 5 for me.
All right, and so now we're going to talk about the token cover of the metal album, Son and Daughter. So thank goodness I Googled and knew this was a cover song so that, I learned off of our Living Color review that you should know when there's fucking covers on the album. And I happened to discover that this was a Queen song and I'd never heard before. So I got the pleasure of hearing 2 renditions of this song this morning, and that was lovely. Queen seems to be more higher pitched and more queeny. This one it's the same kind of song. It feels a little slower, a little heavier. And like it totally was made for this project, which is pretty cool because thematically it kind of questions your role in society, and it's kind of on the same page as, let's say, it's a more direct approach to the topic that was more abstractly covered by the stuff they wrote. So that was cool, and I like the Queen version better. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it's got a nicer thing, a nicer energy to it. So in the sense that it helped me discover this awesome track, that was amazing. In the sense that it truly fits the album despite being a cover, that is also fucking cool, right? Like sometimes they throw on a cover and it's like, okay, maybe it kind of fits, but really it's a cover. It's something for the fans or whatever. Like when Disturbed did The Sound of Silence. It was a great cover, but a strange choice. Strange move, in my opinion. But it was a great cover, not to throw shade at it.
I'm not gonna say anything about that cover. You let us know what you think about the Disturbed cover of The Sound of Silence.
Keep in mind, I am not the biggest metalhead. I am the guy who just, comes here and just says what I gotta say.
I just want to hear. I want to hear the opinions, man. I want to see. You know that gif of like Michael Jackson just eating the popcorn and waiting for shit to go down. That's how I feel about that.
All right. So I look forward to being. We'll see what the comments do turn into being, but in general, I felt this was worthy of a 4. It's hard to judge it in the sense of a real, authentic, they wrote it song. Not to say it's inauthentic, but it is a cover. So I put on my cover lens, and it's a 4. It's not revolutionary, better than the original. It's really good, but still fits the project.
So I'm going to be totally transparent here and say that I had no idea this was a cover. I am so sorry. And I fucking really like Queen, so that's my bad. But I heard this and I was just like, again, like I felt like this was, again, they keep topping themselves. And I don't take that away now that I know it's a cover, because they still, like, this doesn't sound like Queen, you know what I mean? Like, yes, there's that, whatever, fucking super operatic, that obviously came from the Queen song. But other than that, this really sounds like another Corrosion of Conformity song. Like, they took this song and made it their own. It's a great way to end the record. It's every, and, this is a testament to how really good songwriters Queen are. But there's a lot of twists and turns in this track. It's very riffy, super cool. And what's really cool about the way this song fades out is this is one of those records where, like, and this is for the album as a whole, just like the record ends and you have to kind of sit for a moment and just let everything that you heard just kind of stew, like just sit in the silence and bask in what you just listened to. So this one gets a 5 on 5.
All right, and but really, when you think about this album as a whole, it really is something to revisit more than once, and you have almost incentive to, right? In the same way that maybe Kendrick Lamar drew me in with Diem being this concept, this story, this evolution. This album had a very similar impact on me because it was really well thought out, was really well executed. There's no bad songs. There might be a couple that are not exactly in my line of preferencing, but there's no bad songs on this album at all. And as a result, this ended up at a 4.33 for me. It's pretty fucking, like, I was a little bit surprised at how much I ended up liking this album. And it makes me want to go back and hear their earlier career, especially if it's got some more of that punky, fasty shit, because I'm really more into that sound personally. So that's very exciting. It was kind of like when I went back and heard some early Guar after we did our Guar review, So I'm excited to see what I come across. But yeah, so if you want to help me out, people in the comments, let us know what albums are your favorite of Corrosion of Conformity.
Yeah, let us know, because it's cool. This is one of those bands, right? They have the longevity that's like, if you're a heavy music fan, there is something for everybody. If not, their music is dense. It's very, very dense. It's very heavy. It's not gonna be something that your average pop listener is probably going to enjoy, and that's okay. But for me, I gave this record a 4.5 on 5. Man, this is the first new release we're doing in 2018, and we're starting off fucking strong. This is a really, really, really good record.
It is.
There are like 5 or 6 songs that I could see being mainstays in my playlist for many years to come on this record that I'm gonna keep going back to, and I'm gonna keep listening and finding something new every time.
So I guess you could say it's pretty fucking good. Fall Out Boy didn't come out this week.
Oh my god, can you imagine?
Yeah,
what we would have missed out on?
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I haven't heard the record.
Spoiler
I'm just shitting all over
alert,
Fall Out Boy
Fall
for no
Out
reason.
Boy's next week.
We're doing Fall Out Boy next week. My songs know what you did in the dark, dance.
But yeah, thank you all for watching. You guys really make the show. The comments are truly fun to go through, so I know we've drilled it in a couple of times, but don't forget there is that contest where you could win some Amazon money and shit, so feel free to comment and like and subscribe, show some love to us.
And again, when you're commenting, don't just be like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Give us something, you know what I mean? Say like, actually, this song is about this, or actually, this is a cool part of the band's history, or whatever. Or this is my favorite Corrosion of Conformity record or song, or I fucking love Die Hard, or no,
whatever.
Don't say that.
But even if it's like a sentence version of that, just a little bit of substance, because then it becomes qualitative and constructive, and we can get better and move forward. So
join the discussion.
That's right. But yeah, thank you all for watching this week. Let us know how you felt about this album, how you feel about Fall Out Boy, and all that other fun stuff. We'll be back next week.
Fall Out Boy.